explaining to the architect.
I didn't talk to the architect. I talked to you. Between you and the architect is the problem. The problem with the architect is between you and the architect, not between me. I didn't go to the architect to say build my. I went to Solomon. I sat down with Solomon and said build the house. I sent you a piece of paper. I sent you a piece of paper. No, I sent you a piece of paper saying what I wanted. And then you went to the architect.
Looks like trouble in paradise. Hello and welcome to another day in paradise, and welcome to another edition of the Unapologetic Negropian. In today's video, yes, it seems as though Ricks has admitted his mistakes in the drama in the Gambia following the dismissal of Solomon the contractor.
It's our version of the story. The story has two sides and stuff, okay? But here's our side, because this is our YouTube channel and our Patreon family. So here's our version, okay? You can believe it if you want, or you can go with the opposition and say it was our fault. So we sought to give another brother on the continent our business. We're the lone wolves or possibly idiots that say, hey, there's got to be somebody on the African continent that we could deal with that ain't gonna charge us an arm and a leg or make us go broke. Again, I accept some of the responsibility as far as designing it. You have to make a conversion from an American system of feet and inches and yards to square meters, centimeters and millimeters. So anyway, I designed the rooms, and they were small, but still they could accommodate for what we wanted them for. Any contractor, if you design a 1 meter room, a 1 square meter room, and you want to put 100 people in there, any contractor that's worth his grain of salt would say, hey, wait a minute now, those dimensions are too small. Why don't you look at doubling, tripling, quadrupling? This is what we think a contractor should have done. Said, hey, listen, what you want to put here, the measurements don't add up. But, you know, our contractor didn't do that.
So there he is admitting his guilt. But of course, there has been no apologies to Solomon, and he hasn't been reinstated to complete the work that he had already started. Not only that, but Ricks has started to make other excuses as to why he had to fire the contractor. But what mistakes did Rick and Cynthia make? And why are they still laying the blame on the contractor, Solomon? Well, I'm going to explain that for you right now. But first, I'm going to ask you to please like, subscribe, share, click the bell notification, and please consider supporting us on our new Patreon, link in the description. Earlier this morning, Rick had posted a plethora of videos supporting him in his decision in firing the contractor, Solomon. In one video he released this morning, he began to explain why his family would be moving into a security house that they had built on the land. He explained that him and Cynthia had a heart-to-heart in regards to extending their contract to their house which they rent in the Gambia. They figured it was a poignant time to actually go to the land and start living there. Now the only problem is that neither Ricks or Cynthia are spring chickens, okay? They're not that young, and this house doesn't have the amenities that it needs in order to be livable. There is no running water, there's no proper sewage drainage, so the toilet's outside, which is okay. I know it's winter over here in Europe, so they might be able to get away with it over there in the Gambia, but still, outdoor toilets, come on now. Clearly this is to save money, cut costs, so they can pour most of their resources into the project out at Bags. Going to live on the land will make it difficult for them to do the things that they normally do from home, which are all these lives, their fundraising, video uploads. I mean, this is the way they make their money. And as you can see from the building, from the way it looks now, it is nowhere near complete, and it is not livable. So the next few weeks will be a very interesting time out at Bags to see if they can cope in those types of conditions, because I can tell you something, I would struggle. So anyway, Ricky has made these mistakes. He's made mistakes in the calculations of the size of the building. Now, what he wanted Solomon to do was to rearrange the rooms. Actually, he only wanted him to rearrange one of those rooms, and it was only minor. However, when you've already built foundations, there is precious little that you can do to change anything on the actual foundations themselves. Once it's done, it's done. It's not irreversible, but you got to think about where some of those walls are going to be placed inside the house. A lot of those walls will be carrying a lot of weight on top of themselves. So you can't just shift walls around, you can't make them smaller and do all that type of stuff after the foundations have been laid. Rix must have known this. The problem here lies is this. Rix has tried to make the calculations himself, and Rix, God bless his cotton socks, he's not the sharpest tool in the box. I always say that, but he isn't, okay? Especially when it comes to mathematics. Here, take a look for yourself.
I had the 213.22 and the 1.144. It comes up to 334 square meters. That's short of the 372 square meters by 38 meters. Square meters, with 38 square meters off. So it's shorter. According to the internet, 4,000 square feet equals 372 meters.
Okay, so did you hear that? Okay, right. A lot of people might have missed it, so I'm going to play it for you again. Listen very carefully.
4,000 square feet equals 372 meters.
Now, I'm no rocket scientist, but even I know that 4,000 square feet does not equate to 372 square meters. In fact, it is way, way off, and we can see why Rick has a problem with changing this imperial system, which is in squared feet, okay, into metric, which is 372 meters squared. Okay, so he's trying to get that. How many times does 1 foot go into 1 meter? It's pretty simple, isn't it? It's 3 feet and 33 centimeters. Okay, so that's how many feet go into 1 square meter. So in order to get this calculation, simple, it's very simple. All you have to do is divide 4,000 divided by 3.33, which equals 1,201. Okay, 1,201 squared meters. That's how much square footage they were looking for. Okay, not 372 square meters, but 1,201 square meters. There you have it. That's the mistakes Rick has done himself. Rick has had a problem converting the metric system back into his home original imperial system. This is a problem a lot of Americans specifically. If you're an American, you got to listen up to this because it's very important. If you're in the United Kingdom, you probably would have noticed that straight away because we're one of very few countries that use a mix of both metric and imperial systems, okay? But if you're from the United States, you only use the imperial system. You will only buy your fuel in gallons, okay? You measure people's height in feet, okay? You measure weight in pounds and that sort of thing. We don't do that in Europe, okay? In general, Europe is a metric system, right? But the United Kingdom is a very rare country that essentially uses a combination of both, right? So we know how to convert metric system into imperial and vice versa, right? So as soon as he said these numbers, I was like, boom, well, that's your problem. So Rick has tried to map out the floors himself, okay? And he tried to convert it into the metric system with disastrous effects. So the rooms are much smaller than what he had originally asked for. I don't even understand how he managed to do this. I mean, he's got a phone, but listen to what he says. He's not using a calculator. He's doing it on the internet. He says the internet says. Okay, so he's doing this probably using one of the Google calculators or something like that, when you can just use a calculator to do this very, very simple equation, okay? It's 3.33 for every meter. It's quite simple, okay? Right, 3.33, that's what goes into a meter. So we know this, 3.33 feet go into every meter. Cynthia actually makes the exact same mistake as well. They are both struggling to convert metric into imperial and vice versa. It's not that difficult, but when you're, in your golden years and you're doing projects like this, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle if you're using a different system than the one that you are used to back in the United States. So this is square on Rick's fault, okay? It's his fault. He made that mistake in trying to convert their imperial feet and inches into the metric meters that they use on the African continent. This puts Solomon in a bad position because now he is having to change the dimensions of the actual foundations. So this is very, very difficult. It's not impossible. It's just very, very difficult to do because those foundations are laid in a way in which pressure from the roof, right, which is a very important part, not the most important part, but a very important part of the house, the roof. The roof is going to be sitting on top of this structure. Okay, and it will need to hold the weight of this roof. The bottom structure is going to need to hold the weight of this roof. So there is precious little that Solomon can do, because if you move one wall, it will impact the rest of the walls and the rest of the measurements throughout the entire house. It will have a domino effect, okay? You're going to listen to Solomon try and explain this to Rick right now.
So, and in building, you work according to the plan.
Right.
If they said from here to here, this meter, and from the other side to the other side, it will make this side smaller. If you add up this place like what you said, right, to here, and you make the other side smaller, I know the other side contain a lot of things. It contain the mini part sitting, right, it contain the guest toilet, contain the pigeon stuff. So if you bring it, if you compact it,
right.
So they make a video for their Patreon members, and in the video they explain why they fired the contractor Solomon, and they explained that the numbers were all off. Of course the numbers were all off. You made those numbers. You openly admitted to making those mistakes. Okay, so of course if one number is off, everything else is going to be off throughout the entire structure. And simply making those mistakes and then saying, well, it's the contractor's fault. It's the contractor's fault because he should have seen these mistakes, right? He should have seen these mistakes and he should have rectified them. He should have brought them up to us. Okay, that's what we pay them for. No! The contractor is paid simply to do the work he's told to do in the terms of the contract and on the plan. You firmly work by that plan. You don't vary off it at any point whatsoever. You can't anyway. You can't vary the plan simply because if you do that, it's going to have an impact on the numbers throughout the entire building, making it unsafe. In the video, Rick explains that, hey, we're going to look for another brother because we want to give this work to an African. I'm not sure if there's any Africans that are going to want to take up that job. I don't think that anybody would want to take that risk unless there are going to be contingencies factored into their plans, because they need to factor in the mistakes that could be made by Cynthia and by Ricky. And Rick's already knows that if he approached any Lebanese or any Chinese in order to do that work for him, whilst the work would probably be pretty good, he would struggle to pay them, and he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be put in a position where the law could be called. Another thing I have to ask is, why on earth would you need 600 square meters for a bedroom? That's what they're asking for. 2,000 square feet is around 650 square meters for one bedroom. I mean, that can't be right. even with a walk-in wardrobe. You could have a kitchen inside there. 600 square meters is about the same size as an average house in the United Kingdom. Why do you need to have a 600 square meter bedroom for? I mean, it's just everything about this project, the proportions, the way it's being ran, the way it's being organized, who's managing it, everything about it just seems to be ridiculous. But hey, it's their project. I'm not going to moan about that. The simple fact is that we have people there on the continent who are going to be looking at us going like, man, I have a feeling that we've got a lot of contractors who are just not going to be willing to sacrifice their time, their energy, and their resources to build a project which they may never complete themselves, simply down to the mismanagement of Cynthia and Ricky. And of course, all this is going to reflect on us. I read the comments in the last comment section and I saw people getting on and African Americans this, African Americans that. I know plenty of African Americans, especially in Ghana, plenty of African Americans who are living their dreams, and they are extremely good people, very proficient, the most proficient people that you will ever speak to in the African diaspora. And they're keeping their mouths quiet. They don't want anything to do with people like the Black Acres of the Gambia, because they already know who the Black Acres of the Gambia are, what these types of people are, because the Black Acres of the Gambia are not the only ones that are over here trying to escape their past in the United States. Okay, there are plenty of others over there. I've done lots of videos about other diasporans who have moved to the continent to escape their history. Okay, and escaping your history is one thing. It's not a problem to escape your history. There are going to be plenty of people who are going to want to do that. It's one of the main reasons why people choose to move to another country. But the simple fact is this: when you move to another country and you're moving because you made mistakes, well, you made mistakes. The types of people who are moving to the continent right now are not the cream of the crop. Okay, they're not the best of the best. Okay, and that is unfortunate. It is very unfortunate because it reflects on the rest of the diaspora, and people are going to start, and especially African continentals, I really hope they don't, but they're going to start questioning our integrity. Rick and Cynthia of the Black Acres of the Gambia are not Juliet and Adrian of Blacksit. Okay, Juliet and Adrian are in a different ball game in reality, because Juliet's husband is a builder. He's a builder back in the United Kingdom. Okay, so this guy knows what he's doing. Okay, he doesn't have to ask or go out and get contractors himself. He can do the job himself, right? He's built their house in reasonable time. He's built his house and they are living in it rent free. Okay, which is brilliant. Okay, it looks like they did their homework. So guys, if you're looking to repatriate to the continent, and if you are looking to try and build your dreams, please, if you need to look at someone who's done things right, you need to perhaps look at Blacksit, because it just looks like they played their cards right, didn't they? They look like they went ahead, did their research, got to work straight away, got their finances in place straight away, and put themselves in a situation where they could live there. And they had contingencies. Okay, so that is the smart thing to do if you're planning to move over there. You can do it like Rick and Cynthia has, but if you do, you run risk of putting yourself in the same problems as Rick and Cynthia. So guys, what do you think about what has happened? Let me know in the comments section below. It'd be really good to hear from you. Okay, and that's it from me for today. Thank you for watching. I'd like to give an extra special thank you to my Patreon members. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, please think twice. Ta-ra a bit.